everybody, we are live. Can you hear us, first of all?
If anyone can hear me or Andy, please type something out.
Yeah, just type into on the right. Let us know that you can hear us. There we go.
Right.
Okay, so it's working. It's working. I think we had some technical difficulties on Thursday. We got through it, but I think we have conquered all of that. We are better at creating vitamins and supplements than we are at managing simple things like a crowdcast webinar, but we do our best. So people are still coming in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you everybody for joining us. Vinny and I have been working on this for 2 years since our last product launch, which was almost exactly 2 years ago, September of 2019, when we launched our children's multi-cap. And this is a product that is near and dear to our hearts. We've worked really hard at it, so we're very excited to tell you all about it today. And I'm going to go right to the presentation and do this. Okay, close message. So, can you all see? You should be now seeing the presentation, the slide that says Omega EPA DHA with Krill, and Vinny and I as little postage stamps in the corner. Does everybody see that? Super.
Okay. After everyone can see it.
Okay, perfect. Right. All right, well, here we go. Omega EPA DHA with Krill. We're going to talk in a bit about why we called it exactly that. But it is Pure Vitamin Club's entry into the omega-3 market. And we've worked very hard to create what we think is the best such product on the market. So let's take a look at why. Oh, I got to go over here to do this. Okay. So here we go. First of all, please note that if you stick around to the end of this, we are going to be sharing with you a promo code that will give you 25% off your whole order that you place today. Now, a question came up, and I'm going to address this now after our webinar on Thursday. If you are adding to your subscription, you have a subscription, and when you decide to add the Omega, you just choose on the website, add to existing subscription. There's no way, unfortunately, for our system to apply the discount. So what I'm going to ask is, if you want the immediate discount, do it in a different way than adding to your subscription, and maybe do that later at a different time. If you really want to just add it to your subscription now, let us know in an email after the fact. And what we're doing for people is we're making a note, and when your subscription comes up for your next shipment, say it's a month from today, and you add it today, because we have no way of applying it to it that way, send us an email, say, hey, I added it to my subscription, I want the discount. We will put a note in the calendar, and the day that charges through, we will issue that 25% as a refund. If you're adding it to an existing subscription, we can only give the 25% on the Omega that you add, not the whole existing subscription. So sorry for that being a little clunky, but the system just doesn't have a mechanism for adding the discount if you do it by adding to an existing subscription. So I hope that's clear. Okay, let's go down. Oh, too fast. All right, so forgive me if some of this is too basic, but before we can talk about what makes our product special, I want people to understand what it is that we're dealing with in omega-3s and the components of that. So let's start with just defining what omega-3s are. Omega-3s are a family of essential fatty acids. Those are called essential because your body literally requires them to function properly, and yet your body cannot make them, so they have to be consumed, whether through the food you eat or by supplementation. You're not going to get them. Your body's not going to manufacture them. They are an integral part of cell membranes throughout the body, so they affect the function of the cell receptors in those membranes, so they control what gets into your cells. They also regulate blood clotting, contraction and relaxation of artery walls, and they have a profound effect on inflammation. Some of the foods that contain high levels of omega-3s, primarily fatty fish. So examples of fatty fish are anchovies, salmon, mackerel, herring. An example of a non-fatty fish would be like halibut. Other seafoods, so there are omega-3s in primarily crustaceans, also in some sea algae. There are some omega-3s in walnuts, in chia seeds, in flax seeds, and a few other vegetable products, but primarily you're going to get them from fish products. You will see, especially if you're kind of looking through the omega section at the where you buy your vitamins, you'll see omega-3 and you'll often see omega-6 as well. But there are other omegas, including 9. Those are the 3 most common: the omega-3, the omega-6, and the omega-9. They're all essential fatty acids, but they don't operate the same way. Omega-6 fatty acids, also essential, meaning your body both needs and cannot make them, are very present in food, and in fact the ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 is very key to health. When humans evolved, they evolved on a diet with a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 that was about even. Currently, in most Western diets, that ratio is way off kilter. It's usually as high as 15 to 1 on the side of omega-6, 15 omega-6 to 1 omega-3, sometimes even higher. There is a lot of research that suggests that those high ratios can promote many diseases, including cardiovascular disease, cancer, inflammatory, autoimmune diseases. That's why, you'll see some supplements that include omega-6. We choose not to do it because it's much more important that you boost your ratio higher on the 3 side than the omega-6 side. What that ratio is exactly to be optimal is not firmly established, but it's generally considered to be in the healthy range when it's lower than 5 to 1, omega-6 to omega-3. Omega-9 is a little bit different because whereas omega-3 and omega-6 are polyunsaturated fats, omega-9s are monounsaturated. So while they're essential for the body to function, they're not, this is not a so, this is an and. They are essential for the body to function properly, but they can be produced by the body, unlike omega-3s and omega-6s, and they're found in abundance in our diets. They're in olive oil, they're in nuts, they're in seeds, they're in other oils. So you almost never see an omega formula that includes 9 because it's just not necessary to supplement with that. So let's talk about what omega-3s actually do for your body, what they're good for. This is all according to the National Institutes of Health, that they help to protect against cardiovascular disease, that they're very key in infant health and development. We actually had a question by email the other day. I think it was by email, it might have been like an Instagram message, asking if it's safe to take omega-3s when you're pregnant. And the answer is, not only is it safe, but it's advisable because it will promote healthy infant development. They can assist in preventing certain cancers. They can assist in lowering your risk of Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia and cognitive decline. They, because they have a profound health effect on eye health, they can lower the risk of age-related macular degeneration. They are very effective at relieving inflammation. Along with that, when you do release inflammation, you reduce pain, stiffness, swelling, and loss of function in your joints from rheumatoid arthritis and other conditions of the joints. They've been shown to be very effective at controlling blood pressure, regulating that, supporting healthy skin, and relieving depression and certain mood disorders. Within omega-3s, you have two key fatty acids. You have EPA and DHA. I'm gonna, I made a valiant effort to pronounce these the other day, and I'm gonna skip that, but you can read on there what EPA, what the full names are.
Yeah.
The third one is ALA, alpha-linolenic acid. That one's pretty easy to pronounce. All of those are considered essential fatty acids, which means, again, we have to get them from food or supplements because our body's not going to make them and yet needs them to function. But ALA is not generally considered an important part of an omega formulation because it's, while EPA and DHA are, can be difficult to get in sufficient quantity from foods, ALA is very, very plentiful and from plant sources, even more than from fish sources. So what is the difference between EPA and DHA? And I'm going to get a little technical here, but I think it's important to understand this. Omega-3s and omega-6s, again, they're polyunsaturated fatty acids. So that's when you see on these slides PUFA. That's just the abbreviation for that, polyunsaturated fatty acids. They're long chains of carbon atoms, and they've got a carboxyl group at one end of the chain and a methyl group at the other. Now, the polyunsaturated fatty acids are distinguished from saturated and monounsaturated fatty acids by the presence of two or more double bonds between carbons within that fatty acid chain. Omega-3s are structurally defined by a carbon-carbon double bond that's located towards the methyl end of that chain, 3 carbons in. This gets even a little more technical, but I think it's important. Of those 3 omega-3s, the EPA, the DHA, and the ALA, EPA and DHA are considered long chain because they have, respectively, EPA has 20 carbons with 5 of those double bonds, and you remember that's the double bonds that mark the difference between this kind of group of fatty acids and others. And DHA contains 22 carbons with 6 double bonds. That's what makes them considered long chain, polyunsaturated. The ALA, it's not a lot less, it's only 18 carbons with 3 double bonds, but that keeps it out of that long chain category and makes it what they call a precursor to EPA and DHA. Not to EPA and DHA, but to long chain. Continuing with the difference between the EPA and DHA, there are not only the molecular differences, but there are specific differences in terms of the health benefits that they provide. They both provide certain, crossover benefits, but there is a difference between what they do. According to the Mount Sinai Health System, which is a network of 9 hospitals in the New York area, and it's a very established and well-regarded institution, the benefits of EPA include reducing ADHA or ADD symptoms in children, reducing symptoms of depression, lowering triglycerides and blood pressure, very importantly, reducing the risk of blood clots, even more importantly, reducing the accumulation of arterial plaque. As we talked about earlier, reducing symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis because of its anti-inflammatory effect, helping with symptoms of menopause as well as menstrual pain. So for both premenstrual women and menstrual women, premenopausal and menopausal women, it's very effective, and overall reducing inflammation in the body. Now DHA, and this is according to the National Institutes of Health, some of those benefits are supporting brain health, improving your learning ability, supporting and improving the eye health, which we talked about earlier, not just macular degeneration, but can help reduce the risk of glaucoma and even cataracts. Reducing the risk of cognitive decline from Alzheimer's disease and other forms of age-related dementia. Reducing the risk of heart attack, decreasing the proliferation of tumor cells, and reducing risk of some other diseases, including hypertension, atherosclerosis, some cancers. Overall, what you're seeing is that DHA is stronger at supporting brain health and eye health, and EPA more on the inflammation and cardiovascular side, again, with some crossovers. Just like the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is important, so is the ratio of EPA to DHA. And you're going to see a lot of disagreement from different sources, and that depends on what people want out of an omega-3. If people are using it primarily for its beneficial effects on the brain, they tend to want a product with higher DHA than EPA because of that relationship that DHA has with brain health. But for overall use, to get the maximum benefit across the board, the leading doctor at the Mayo Clinic in this area, Dr. Stephen Kopecky, recommends a ratio of 3 to 2, 3 parts EPA to 2 parts DHA. And that's what we've gone with. There's another component of an omega-3 complex. It's a different kind of fatty acid, and those are phospholipids. They're a class of lipids whose molecule, and if you look at this nice little diagram over here, it'll illustrate it. It has what's called a hydrophilic head. Hydrophilic means that it attracts water, and 2 hydrophobic tails. So if you see hydrophobic, like any kind of phobic, means it repels. If you look at this little diagram over here, you'll see the hydrophilic, the head and the 2 little tails, and those form a layer around cells. As such, they are key to delivering EPA and DHA directly into those cell membranes. That's what allows fatty acids to move around the body and be properly absorbed by tissues and organs, because the phospholipid helps it attach better into the cells. In addition to that benefit, phospholipids have their own health benefits. They help to protect the structures inside of cells. They're called organelles, and of which mitochondria is one. They support brain health. They facilitate early brain development, again, which is why I responded to that woman that it's not only safe but beneficial for pregnant women. They strengthen the gut lining, and they prevent liver damage, help prevent liver damage. So what are the best sources of EPA and DHA? There are limited amounts from sea algae and from some other plant sources. You'll see some vegan formulations for people who, for whatever their reasons, prefer to stay strictly vegan. You can get some omegas from plant sources. They are nowhere near as effective, nowhere near as well absorbed, and you're just not going to get enough from those sources.
And a lot of times, Andy, you're also increasing your omega-6s along with that.
That's correct. That's correct.
It's hard to weed them out.
It's harder to separate it out. With apologies to Dr. Seuss, we say fat fish, lean fish, large fish, small fish. Because there are several different factors to consider in terms of finding which fish are the best sources for your EPA and DHA. First of all, as we already discussed, you want fattier fish, because it's obvious if the higher the fat content, the higher the EPA and DHA content. So that, as we said, is anchovies, herring, mackerel, sardines, salmon. So when you look at omega-3 supplements and you look at if they even identify the fish that they come from, you'll see combinations of those fish. Oh, come on, there we go. Did I go too? No, there we go. All right, so as important as the fattiness of the fish is the size of the fish. As with any food chain, larger creatures feed on smaller creatures, feed on still smaller creatures, all the way down. In the oceans, the food chain starts with very, very simple one-cell or multi-cell organisms like plankton. Then the next step up are tiny crustacean-like creatures. Then small fish and larger fish and really large fish like tuna, and then you get to the sharks at the top of the food chain. Along the way on that food chain, every creature that gets eaten by somebody, a creature higher on the food chain, has some level of naturally occurring and man-contributed contaminants that then get consumed by the larger creatures. So as that accumulates up the food chain, the larger fish have more of those potential contaminants and toxins. So to get the cleanest fish possible, you want to go as small as possible. So because of that, size does matter here. So when you're looking for fatty fish and you're looking for the smallest of those, the answer is the anchovy. And while some people don't like the way those taste, I personally love them. That's not an issue.
Of them. It's always crazy to me.
Everybody has their own taste. Some people don't like anchovies. Some people don't like mushrooms.
Pizza. I'm sitting there going, what's wrong with you? What happened in your life that you don't love anchovies?
Well,
okay.
Regardless, that's not an issue when you're taking the oil from the anchovy and putting it inside of a soft shell.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like an anchovy.
It's not like you're going to say, anchovies, now I'm suddenly craving pizza and a Caesar salad. It's not like that. But they are the best source from fish of omega-3s because they're extremely fatty and they're extremely small, so they're low on the food chain, so they're among the cleanest fish. Now, anchovies do not occur in the coldest of waters, so you're not going to find anchovies, in the Arctic Ocean or down around Antarctica. You're going to find them in more temperate waters. That's why they are so popular in Mediterranean foods, Italian food, Greek food, Spanish food, because they're very plentiful in the Mediterranean. The anchovies that are used in our formula are not coming from the Mediterranean. However, they are coming from a very nutrient-dense waters off the Pacific coast of Peru. They feed on phytoplankton, which are, again, very small creatures, very low on the food chain, and so this is a very clean source of fish. I know that when people go shopping for fish, it's always a question, they'll even say on the label sometimes whether it's wild-caught or farmed. And general, conventional wisdom is that wild-caught is better. And the answer is actually not as simple as that. There are advantages to farmed fish. You can get fattier based on what they feed them, fish. The disadvantages of farmed fish is that, like any time you put a large group of like creatures in a small contained area, any diseases that enter there are going to spread like wildfire, and that's what tends to happen in wild-caught fish. All of this is frankly a little beside the point because anchovies are never farmed. They're too small and they have too short a lifespan to make it.
Yeah, you can't make a net that tight.
Well, it's not even that. It's that it's not profitable. So all anchovies are wild-caught. Krill oil. Until really not that long ago, you would see just fish as the source of your omega-3s. It's only in the last number of years that krill oil has become a popular source. So let's address what that is. Krill, as you can see by that picture, are tiny, tiny little shrimp-like things, crustaceans. They, not microscopic, you can see them with the naked eye, but they are really tiny. They are very plentiful throughout the world's oceans. But because, again, they're in virtually every ocean, the cleanest place to get those are going to be in Arctic and Antarctic waters, and that's where most of the krill that you will see in supplements is going to come from Arctic krill or Antarctic krill. This is a good place to, yeah, Vinny just posted it in the chat, to mention that krill are shellfish. So people with shellfish allergies, unfortunately, anything with krill is not going to be a great fit for them, depending on, you know, how strong your shellfish allergy is. Some people can really go into serious anaphylactic shock, and a krill oil product can produce that. How does krill differ from fish oil? They're both great sources of omega-3 fatty acids, but the structure of those fatty acids is different, and how the fatty acids are delivered, which is even more important, is different. That brings us back to phospholipids, which we talked about earlier. The EPA and the DHA in fish oil are carried in the form of triglycerides. Triglycerides are the class of fats that the body uses for energy. The problem with that is that, not a problem, but it's just a fact, is that triglycerides, number one, do not disperse well in water. So if you are taking a triglyceride-based oil, it's going to that oil is going to sit on top of your stomach fluids rather than blending in, mixing in. That's where what some people experience with fish oil products, the fish burps comes from, because if you've got fish oil resting on top of your stomach fluids, when you burp, that's the first thing that's going to kind of come up into your, you know, passageways, and you're going to go, I don't remember having fish. Again, it doesn't happen to everybody, but that's where it comes from, is because the triglycerides that carry the EPA in fish oil do not blend. But they also, as we talked about a little bit earlier, well, let me back up a second. The fatty acids, the EPA and the DHA in krill oil, are much less concentrated. There's much less EPA and DHA in krill oil than in fish oil. It's just a much lower concentration. However, the EPA and DHA that is there are bound to phospholipids and not triglycerides. Phospholipids, number one, do mix with water. So when those enter your stomach, they do mix. They don't sit on the top. They mix in with the water, which is why if you're taking pure krill oil, you have zero possibility of fish burps, because it's all mixed in there. It's just not the same thing. But even more importantly, as we talked about earlier with phospholipids, those phospholipids bring the EPA and the DHA to your cells, your tissues, and your organs much more effectively than triglycerides do, which means that you're going to absorb the EPA and DHA much better. In addition to that benefit from krill, the other thing is that it contains an antioxidant called astaxanthin, which fish oil does not. And that antioxidant, astaxanthin, there's tremendous evidence showing that it aids also in reducing inflammation, in retarding the aging process, reducing the risks of heart disease, eye disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and some cancers, and has definitely been shown to improve your skin health overall. And again, krill oil has that, fish oil does not. So what we have done is we have put fish oil and krill oil together to get the best of both worlds. You're going to get the higher concentration of EPA and DHA from the fish, but that's going to be transported more effectively because it's going to be mixed in with the krill oil that brings that to your cells in a more effective way. And then you're going to get the astaxanthin, which brings us to our formula. Again, as we talked about earlier, we worked very hard on this and we wanted to create the best product on the market. taking into consideration these following things. We wanted to make sure that we were getting the best quality fish and krill, so we went with the anchovies, again the smallest, cleanest, fattiest fish possible, and the Arctic krill oil. We wanted to make sure that we had the correct EPA to DHA, and correct is a misleading word because there is, again, some disagreement between different scientific factions, but the optimal, generally agreed upon by more people than not, is the 3:2 EPA to DHA ratio. And then we wanted to add 2 additional ingredients that we thought would sort of supercharge the formula. And as always with our products, we add no kind of junk, no fillers, no sweeteners, no anything. The only things in this product, other than the 4 ingredients you'll see in the next slide, are the gel caps, the soft gel casings themselves, which are made from gelatin. So here's our formula. This is an exact copy of the panel from the bottle. So what you can see is a serving size is 2 soft gels. There was no way to deliver what we know to be the optimal daily dose, which is 600 EPA to 600 milligrams of EPA to 400 milligrams of DHA. Again, if you look at that, that's the 3:2 ratio. There's no way to deliver that in one soft gel. As it is, these soft gels are a little on the large side. They're definitely larger than our others. They're still quite swallowable. There are other products on the market that are much bigger. We've done our best to make it as easy to take as possible.
We even thought about going bigger, but it just gets to a point where people won't want to take it. So you gotta make it palatable.
When Vinny and I set about to do this, the first thing we did was we bought samples of pretty much everybody's products, and there were a couple in there that you just looked at and you said, okay, who's swallowing this thing?
As far as that, I couldn't believe they were selling.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Okay, so we do.
And when it comes to taking pills, I'm the Linda Lovelace of taking large vitamins. And
leave it to Vinny to go there.
Still couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I could do it, but it was just not comfortable.
Yeah.
We had to make a comfortable product.
Moving on. So we wanted to deliver the combination of anchovy oil and krill. We wanted to make sure we got the 600-400. Then we added these 2 other ingredients, rosemary oil and chlorophyll extract. We wanted to make sure that you're absorbing everything, and then let's talk about why we added those 2 other ingredients. Rosemary oil. In addition to being, actually one of my favorite herbs to use, I loved even just actually, when you take rosemary and you kind of squish it between your fingers and you can smell it, it's really nice. But there are a number of purported medical benefits. Those are, science on those are not conclusive. It's something that continues to be studied, and there's evidence of, but there are going to be no real studies that say it's absolutely going to help with things. But these are the benefits that have been suggested: helping brain function, hair growth, relieving pain and inflammation, repelling certain bugs, easing stress by reducing levels of cortisol. But much more important than that, we didn't put it in for any of those reasons, again, because the science is just not conclusive enough. But what is conclusive is that natural rosemary oil or rosemary extract are very powerful oxidation slowers. So any oil starts to turn rancid after a while, especially an animal-based oil. It's unavoidable. What rosemary oil or rosemary extract do is it slows down that oxidation, so it extends the shelf life. It's essentially a very natural form of preservative just by adding an herb extract. Chlorophyll. This was an important one to us. Again, it's something that's studied a lot, and the evidence of its health benefits are really inconclusive, even much less conclusive than they are for rosemary. So we don't even really talk about those. But the important reason to use chlorophyll is it is a very effective odor reducer. I learned years ago that because I love garlic, but sometimes I would have a meal with a lot of garlic. And later, even that night, sometimes even the next morning, you not only have it stuck on your breath, but it'll come out of your pores. So you wake up feeling like you're inside of a garlic clove. And I learned years ago that if you take a capsule of pure chlorophyll just before or during that really garlic heavy meal, it will eliminate that. You have no garlic on your breath, no garlic on your skin. So we added 20 milligrams of pure natural chlorophyll extract as another safeguard against any kind of potential fish burps. Now, there is no way to guarantee when you're taking any fish oil, there's no 100% guarantee that you won't ever experience those. We're just doing everything we can to minimize it. So the chlorophyll is very effective at that, at keeping that just very, very minimal. So there you have it. There is our EPA DHA with krill. Again, what sets this apart from everything else on the market is, number one, the combination of the pure fish oil from anchovies and the Arctic krill. The carefully balanced formula so that you're getting the right ratio of EPA to DHA with the phospholipids, meaning maximum absorption from that 600, 400. It's no good getting 600 and 400 if it's all bypassing your cells and not absorbing. Adding the rosemary oil to retard oxidation, and adding the chlorophyll extract to reduce odor. And as always, no junk added whatsoever. That's it. If you look back, let's go back a couple. You can see, other than the ingredients inside, the fish oil, the krill oil, the rosemary oil, and the chlorophyll extract, the only other ingredient is the soft gel capsule itself. So how do you get it? All Pure Vitamin Club products are available on our website, purevitaminclub.com. This is live on the website now. So if you go there, you can pull it down from the products menu on the top. Serving size is 2 soft gels daily. Because we do for our subscriptions, and you can buy all of these products either single purchase or subscription, but if you do subscriptions, we want everything to be on the same cycle, so all of our products are 90-day supplies. So because the dose of this is 2 soft gels, these bottles will contain 180 soft gels. Pricing. If you're buying it on a single purchase, our full price is $42.95. Plus shipping and handling of $4.95. And our shipping and handling is the same whether your order is 1 bottle or 10 bottles. It's still just $4.95. If you subscribe, that comes down $3 to $39.95.
Andy,
yes, I will go back to the nutrition label.
We'll go back and show that.
Yeah, I'm going to go back there. So yeah, I'll leave that up for a little bit. The supplement facts, again, it's a total of 1,250 milligrams of fish oil, 350 milligrams of krill oil. That's giving you 600 EPA, 400 DHA. You're getting the 10 milligrams of rosemary oil, 20 milligrams of chlorophyll extract, and that's it. Just the soft gel. Let me go back down now here. So, the discount for attending the webinar today, the code is DHAWEB. This will go through the end of tomorrow, so Monday this becomes inactive. And again, if it's a new order, you will get 25% off your whole order. If you are adding this to a subscription, let us know, because our system just can't, there's nothing it can do about that other than to have you tell us, yeah, hey, Andy, I added the omega-3 to my subscription. It renews in 67 days. Can you please apply the discount? And we will apply the discount as a refund when that next order comes through to just the addition of the omega to that subscription. That is it, and that takes us to Q&A. Any questions that anybody has? You have no audio or video, Dave.
Yeah, but I think you got it back. Some people lost for a second, but then
Yeah,
came back.
I don't know what could have caused that, but I hope everybody can still hear. Uh, any questions?
Oh, the other night we had a gazillion questions.
Yeah, yeah.
You must have done a better job of
Maybe so.
explaining.
I'm going to go back because a couple people still wanted to know about the label, so I'm going to go back there. I think maybe, David, that's something on your end. I don't know, because it doesn't seem like other people are having an issue. The chlorophyll source is largely spirulina, Brian. Greg, if you ordered after the last webinar, as with all of our codes, it's another aspect of our system. You can't use the same code twice. So the code the other day was EPA web, but the code today is DHA web. We did that so it really just helps us figure out how best to make these effective. So we wanted to be able to see who was ordering after this webinar versus the other one. That's why we have two different codes. So if you ordered once on EPA web, you wouldn't be able to use that again, but if you do DHA web, you will. I've never seen a product with DPA. I'm really not concerned about that. The EPA and DHA are the two that you really want out of a fish oil or an omega-3 oil. All right, well, if there are no more questions, I think we will call it a day. I very much appreciate you all being here.
Right now I'm sending out some social media so other people can find the product.
Brian, the remaining 250 milligrams of oil are other lipids. That's where you have your triglycerides primarily. So that's what's going on. EPA and DHA are never 100% of any oil product. Oh, questions in the question section. I always forget about the question section. Do you have to take the full serving for it to be effective? Okay. It can be split. One in the morning and the one in the evening is fine. I answered the question about the chlorophyll.
Matter of fact, I prefer doing it that way.
Yeah, did you already cover who this is for? This is for anybody. The omega-3s are effective for pretty much everybody, except, in this case, people with shellfish allergy. In terms of taking more than 2 capsules a day, Bill, that depends. For most people, it's not necessary to take more than 2 capsules a day. If you, for whatever reason, have a doctor who recommends that, then yeah, we had that question the other day. My doctor says to take, 1,000 milligrams of EPA. We would never contradict what a doctor says. Absolutely, this is good for kids. I will say for smaller kids, they're going to have a problem swallowing it. So it depends on your kids and how good they are with taking pills. But generally, kids under like 8 are going to have a hard time swallowing these larger pills. And there's no particular time of day that it's more effective than the other. It doesn't really matter. And DMAX, who's it not for? The only people it's really not for are people with shellfish allergy. And Tracy, yes, it is not only safe to take during pregnancy, it is advisable to take during pregnancy because the omega-3s are very good for promoting infant and fetal brain development. No, the EPA and DHA, it's a good question, in the krill oil are not listed, are not included in the 600, 400. So there is some EPA and DHA in the krill oil, but we list it primarily from the fish.
Andy, Christy is asking, should it be taken with food? I personally, and again, I can take fish oil on an empty stomach, no problem. I think I am a fish at this point. Some people like to take it with food. It doesn't matter which way you do it. And also to answer another question, the time of day doesn't matter, but I do like to split, since you have to take two, I like to split them up.
Stosh is answering whether I've heard of taking DHA in the morning and EPA in the evening, or vice versa. With a, you know, there are companies that will put out a product that is just EPA and one that is just DHA. Most products, including this one, will have the two together, so there's really no way of splitting it, and I don't really believe that there's any big benefit. Chris DeFran, you lost the video. I don't know without scrolling back. Can you ask your question again? Because I don't know where it is. Stephen, it will be available in the UK Europe store next week. We're adding that this week, so another few days. And when we do that, I will make sure that for the first week that the coupon codes are there. And yes,
Greg is asking a good question. He's saying that he's taking one from Sports Research, a triple strength. Did we look at that supplement?
I don't remember looking at that one.
We looked at all of the top brands, and that
yeah, I mean, we looked at a lot. There. We probably looked at 20 of them, but I don't remember looking at Sports Research. But I can tell you, if they're doing 1250 milligrams per capsule, it's a giant capsule.
And the question from Casey, is Corolla taking it yet? I will be hand delivering it to him at Gina Grad's wedding in about 10 days.
If Chris DeFran is still there, if you can ask your question again, because I can't find it scrolling back.
Oh, Steve, it's not available yet in the UK, but it will be shortly. Andy, do we have an ETA on that?
Yeah, it should be up by Tuesday.
In Europe?
The problem is that I don't have it at our UK fulfillment center yet, so it's going to take probably another 10 days to get it there. In terms of Ryan has a question. The general recommendation is a dosage of 600 EPA and 400 DHA. So that's what we went toward.
You want to answer
benefits?
Chris's
here's Chris's question. This does help heart health and cholesterol by decreasing arterial plaque and bettering your fat, sort of just your fat composition in your body.
And also, one of the biggest effects of EPA DHA is lowering inflammation, which lowers the chances of heart disease.
Correct. Let's see if there are more questions in here. And thank you again to whoever it was that said, questions in the question, because I always forget about that question tab at the bottom. Christina, we are putting out a vitamin C. It is coming out in less than 2 months. We don't have an exact date yet because I'm waiting for the delivery date on the product itself, but it's going to be mid to late October. and it's going to be a liposomal vitamin C, and we'll talk about that. We're going to do another one of these webinars when we come out with that. We're actually doing a dual product launch for the first time. It's going to be the liposomal vitamin C with bioflavonoids, and a separate product which will be zinc picolinate, which is going to be our simplest product ever. It's literally a one ingredient product. Is it zinc picolinate in a capsule? That's it, because
Just
there's nothing you can do to improve on that. So that will be sometime mid to late October.
Is that about it, Ann?
That's about it. I don't see any more questions. Greg also asked about the vitamin C, so that answer is for him
we
as well.
answered that.
And yes, that can be a problem to get enough vitamin C. And again, with vitamin C, how it's delivered is important. And when we do our webinar on that, we'll explain how liposomal vitamin C is the only way to go, because that's how you're really going to absorb it.
It's amazing that more companies won't consider, but they won't do it because it's just, they're saving pennies. And
and then it's also how you create a liposomal vitamin C is important, because a lot of, I would say the vast majority of products use a soy-based product to do that, and we don't believe in using soy products, so ours will not have soy. Well, with that, I think we're going to call it a morning. Thank you again, everybody, for participating. We really appreciate it. As always, if you have questions during the week, you can always reach us on our email, support@purevitaminclub.com, or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, Pacific time, at 866 787-3321. It's 866-PURE-321. And we answer the phone 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, Pacific time. And if you catch us outside of those hours or during those hours when the line is busy, we will call you back.
Andy, I'm just answering one more question. CoQ10 coming Monday, that's in the private question. We have been working on that for a long time. That will come at some point.
Yes, we're looking at possibly a 2022 CoQ10.
Yeah, because it's very important. So many people are on statins, and I don't think there's a cardiologist out there that does not put their patients that they put on statins. If you're on the statin, you should be on a CoQ10. And I'm not a big statin fan, but there are a lot of people on statins, and the one thing you should have along with that is a good CoQ10, and they are not all created equally.
They are not.
We've
like
been
everything
working on
else.
it for a long time, and we won't put it out until it's the best possible.
And that's just it. I'm glad you mentioned that, Benny, because a question we get question. I see these more than you do, Vinny, because I look at all the the emails that come in. And we get a lot of questions. How come you don't have this kind of supplement? How come you don't have a vitamin C? How come you don't have a CoQ10? How come you don't have a joint support formula? And 9 times out of 10, it's not that we don't want to have one. It's that our business model from the start has been only grow as fast as we can safely without bringing in investors and without going into debt. And B, and even more importantly, not putting out a product until we're happy with what we can put out. So it takes us a while. As I said, it took us 2 years to develop this one to get it to where we want.
I want to speak to that just briefly. A lot of people will ask me privately, why don't you take on investors? Well, whenever you start taking on investors, you now have to make those people happy. Right, bean counters come in, and everybody wants to know exactly where every dime is coming from because, hey, and rightly so, it's their money. This is the only way that Andy and I can work with full autonomy, where we are just wildcatters out there making the best supplement. Look, other companies are not trying to do the wrong thing, but they're dictated by the people who are handing them money. and we're not willing to do that.
Right. We've
So
talked
we just do it
to,
ourselves.
yeah, we have friends in the, various food businesses as well as supplement businesses. And when they take on investors, as Vinny said, now they no longer have complete control over their formulas. And the investors say, no, we're going to change the packaging, we're going to change the formula. We think that you need to be adding this, additive, blah, 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 because it's going to extend the shelf life, it's going to make it more cost effective. So we never want to deal with that. It's been one of the pleasures of running this business is that Vinny and I alone make these decisions. So when we have a decision to make, it's getting on the phone and say, hey, what do you think? And we decide.
Lucy, I have an idea.
Yeah,
But
we've
Andy,
made key decisions, sometimes business decisions, on one sentence. Hey, Vinny, what do you think of this? And he says, yeah, let's do it.
and by the way, everything I do around here, from the podcast, a bigger podcast companies wanted me to join their podcast, but the first thing you lose is autonomy, because not only do they want to dictate what you can say and can't say because they want to be more commercially viable, but they want to put people in your podcast who you might not agree with. And the same thing happens with everything I do besides what we do at the company. We just refuse to give up that freedom to my book. They wanted me to change my book. We've talked about all that stuff.
Yeah, Vinny, let me interrupt for a second. I want to answer a question here from Vic, who missed most of this. Yes, Vic, the code, the discount code is DHA Web. And I'm going to show that again at the bottom. DHA Web, it's valid through the end of tomorrow, 25% off. If you are creating a new order, it will cover everything on that order. If you are adding it to your subscription, our system doesn't have the capability of applying a discount to adding to an existing subscription. However, if that's what you choose to do, let us know, send us an email, say, hey, I ordered, I added it to my subscription reships again next month. We will make a note, and when that does, we will apply the discount as a refund to the EPA that you added, the omega that you added to that order. So, little clunky, but that's the only way we have to do it. All right, I think that is it. Again, thank you everybody. Thank you, Vinny.